I know more Mickey Mouse Clubhouse episodes than I know.
Yeah, hot diggity dog.
Oh, it's burned in every father's head.
Yeah.
Play Whiskey Wednesday, Round 11, the memory game. Until June 26. Each week, you can win one of our 12 incredible grand prizes. Select 2 doors at checkout. And if they match on drawing night, you'll win that bottle. Not a match? No worries. You still score a Weller 12-year. Every $5 ticket gives you 5 chances to win, including 4 weekly bonus prizes. Get your tickets now at give270.org. Charitable Gaming License ORG 0002703.
Do you ever pour yourself a bourbon, swirl it around, and then start struggling to come up with tasting notes? And perhaps you're also looking for a good Father's Day gift idea. Well, you can now solve both with a kit from Knows Your Bourbon. And unlike other nosing kits on the market, Knows Your Bourbon kits feature real ingredients for the most authentic aromas. You can smell real Tahitian vanilla bean instead of some synthetic aroma that's just made from chemicals. So head on over to knowsyourbourbon.com. and enter code BP10 for 10% off your order. Always find what you love at Total Wine & More. With so many great bottles to choose from at the lowest price, it's easy to find your favorite Cabernet or a new single-barrel bourbon to try with some help from one of their friendly guides. And with every bottle comes the confidence of knowing you just found something amazing. With the lowest prices for over 30 years, find what you love and love what you find only at Total Wine & More. Curbside pickup and delivery available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Drink responsibly and be 21. From their bar to yours, Chad and Sarah of the popular YouTube channel It's Bourbon Night bring you their favorite at-home old-fashioned mix with the new Elemental Elixirs Golden Hour Syrup. It's a custom-made syrup with notes of bold black tea, warm spices, and orange zest. All you need is your favorite whiskey and ice. No bitters needed. One bottle makes 16 drinks, so that's only $1 a cocktail before you add your own whiskey. They can also be enjoyed in other cocktails or spirits, mocktails, coffee, tea, and anything you can think of. It's crafted locally in Lexington, Kentucky, and you can get your bottle now at whiskeyambitions.com. Ed Bly and Rising Tide Spirits are back again with a new release of Old Stubborn Bourbon. And this release of Old Stubborn is a premium hand marriage of 10, 11, and 12-year cask strength, barely filtered pot still bourbon. It comes in at a staggering 123.8 proof. And the flavoring grain for this one, which the last one was wheated, but this time it's now rye. Rich, sweet, and bold with a long finish that's sure to be another eye-opener. You can order online at Sealbox or thebourbonconcierge.com, and you can even purchase in person at Revival Vintage Spirits, and even now with very few select stores in Kentucky. You can get it now while you can, but be sure to do it because it's not going to last long.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Pursuit podcast. We are here with the 5th edition of the Bourbon Community Roundtable. We've got our very bold guest of panelists over here. We've got, we are close to almost 30 viewers online right now. So anybody that has never joined us before, we always put out the links on the Bourboner Facebook group, on our Twitter handles, everywhere you can find Facebook pages, everything like that. And you can actually get the YouTube link and be able to watch this happening in real time and ask your questions as they go. So, of course, Kenny, host of Bourbon Pursuit. We got Ryan here tonight as well. Ryan, how you doing?
Good, sir. Kenny, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. You know, we're rocking and rolling. I'm
2 episodes today. Rocking.
I know, right? We're just trying to knock them out left and right.
Absolutely.
And that's what I felt like I've been drinking all day because we started drinking this morning with interviewing somebody, and then I've had people coming over picking up bottles, and of course you got to have a drink with them when they come over. And now I'm drinking with you all. So
you're gonna be on point for this one.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be feeling it. So good. With that, let's go ahead and introduce our panelists once again. Carrie, we'll start with you.
Carrie, Suburbia, www.suburbia.com. Follow me on Twitter at @bourbon_gamer. And I just like to be here to make fun of Blake, who looks like he dropped again. So,
Jordan, go for it.
Yeah, sure. This is Jordan from Breaking Bourbon, one of the 3 guys that run Breaking Bourbon. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, our website at Breaking Bourbon. latest news and release calendar, and of course, reviews.
I'm Blake from Bourboner.com. I run the site, the blog, and all the social media. So just released our Bourboner Whiskey of the Year. So we'll get into that a little bit later. So excited to be a part of it tonight.
Good. Well, glad everybody's able to be on here tonight. I think we've got a pretty good agenda and kind of good topics amount to cover. But really, there's one big thing that kind of shook up the world this week, and maybe not the world, but I guess, our world. And that was the news that Smooth Ambler, somebody that was a recent guest of ours, they've been getting praises because they have almost like they're kind of getting up there with Willett. They're almost like a cult-like following. Everybody that wants to get these releases called like Jawbreaker and all these other ones that are out there. And it's starting to get heavily sought after. And they announced this week that they are discontinuing their private barrel program, which means no more private picks up until this point. So I kind of want to toss it over to Jordan first. Like, kind of, what's your thoughts on this, and sort of what do you think it's really stemming from?
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? So I think it was inevitable, just because I'm not sure if you guys have had a chance to go down to their distillery and see their location. Really cool spot in West Virginia. Tiny, and they're really trying to fill up their warehouses that they're building with their own distillate. So that makes sense, right? At the same time, they're just slowly dwindling down on their age stuff. And I think it was inevitable. I think the timing could have been a little better, with them selling. I think a lot of people are going to blame the acquisition is really why they're doing it. But I just think, honestly, I think it was just a supply thing. A little bit surprising because they could clearly buy more from their source and keep filling up their stocks. But at the same time, I think it's smart, right? I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what they can put out their own product, and as they continue to age that, hopefully they'll start having some of their own barrel picks and some of their own age products out there. Still a shame. I have a bunch of their bottles, but I don't know. It is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. And with that, they're pretty transparent, right? So everything that they've kind of done for those picks are all coming from MGP. They are releasing their own wheated bourbon that's supposed to be coming soon. Blake, kind of give us your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I think it's just a product of success, and it's a good problem to have for them. But for the consumer, it kind of sucks. I wouldn't be surprised if the new acquisition had something to do with that. You think about it, each barrel, I don't know how long it would just take to bottle their regular Smooth Ambler single barrels. But if you do a private barrel, you got to bring somebody in, you got to talk about a logo, you got to do this tasting, there's a whole lot more work and everything around each barrel. And, when the plan is for growth, it's not a massive operation where they really have that kind of capacity to kind of just let sit there. If it takes an hour to do a regular single barrel, my guess is it takes 5 hours plus to do a private barrel. And when you already have the demand that they have, it's just going to be one of the first things to go. We saw the same thing with Willett about, what did they cut it off? Maybe 3 years ago. Basically everybody scaled back. Kevin Hill has put everything on pause now. They just started releasing some more Elijah Craig single barrels, but I think it's just a product of being successful. And when something's way too really popular, it's not great for the consumer a lot of times. The diehards who've kind of supported them with these programs for a long time. Not that they're turning their back on the consumer or anything, but the private barrels are fun and they do a really good job with them. So
yeah, I going to push it over to you, Carrie. Like, do you really think it's a product of kind of being owned by a bigger person now? Because I guess we all work in industries where we kind of see a bottom line. You kind of see how do we streamline things? How do we make it faster and kind of churn more money? And I can totally understand your argument of being able to say that, yeah, it's a byproduct of putting more time and effort into something that necessarily at the end of the day isn't making you more money.
I think it's three things, honestly. Number one, I think that Smooth Ambler is a small company, and like Blake was saying, it's kind of a pain in the butt for them to do private barrels. There's a lot involved. Four Roses that does private barrels all the time. They've got a separate warehouse for it. Smooth Ambler, I mean, yeah, they're a small company, they're a small group, and so it's, and John Little will even tell you it's kind of a pain for them to do private barrels, and they started to slow down a little bit. I think also on the other hand, if you look at what's on store shelves now, it's all the Smooth Ambler single barrels, right? So they took the same barrel that was a pain for them that they were selling to people, and they began to sell it, and distribute it nationwide. And they're saying, here we are making money from these barrels, more money from these barrels. And it doesn't require any effort that's involved in the private barrels. So I think you have the company not able to handle it, but also from a financial standpoint, like why not take all the remaining barrels of the inventory that you have and just label it with a single barrel, spread it out, and make your money that way from it. I think also just the supply has dwindled. We all know supply issues are everywhere. The demand is definitely higher than supply. So I think it's three things to it. And, I do feel bad. Our whiskey group was up for a barrel this year, but I can understand it. And at least what I appreciate is that they're honest about everything, and they've been honest the whole time. So cheers to them for at least being honest about everything.
Absolutely.
And so I guess that kind of dovetails into the next question that I'll push over to you, Ryan, is there's been a lot of articles saying that MGP is going to be facing a lot of heat and a lot of pressure because they're not going to be able to fulfill the orders that they've either promised to people or whatever it is, because going from 200 distilleries nationwide to 1,000 distilleries nationwide, and everybody wants to have something to sell on day one. And what's the one thing everybody always thinks of when they say I need to sell something? Oh, it's going to be MGP. And so they're definitely feeling, I guess, the squeeze, I guess you could say.
Absolutely. What was the question? You're going to do?
Well, kind of like, what do you really think, MGP's stance on this? Do you think that they're going to be, you think they're really hurting? And then I guess another question for you is, how are they going to be really hurting here in, say, maybe 4 to 6 years, 4 to 8 years, when everybody that is sourcing from them, that is already actually distilling right now, is going to have enough product that they say, "Oh, thanks MGP, that was fun. Talk to you later." We don't later.
Yeah, I agree. It's amazing. I'm still amazed that there's MGP stock out there, just given how many distilleries, startups there are, and there's stuff popping up here locally, and you're like, "Where's that from?" It's from MGP. So I can definitely see where the squeeze is happening, and I would be concerned. I'm sure they might have predicted this, but nobody's predicted this, and I don't know. I've never been there because they're kind of a closed book. MGP is. I guess they have to be with, how many clients they service, but you don't really know much about their operation, what they can handle, and so forth. So I don't really know, but it is surprising that they still have stock available to keep supplying these new distilleries. And that's where I think somebody like the Bardstown Bourbon Company, who's going to be doing something similar, can have a niche in the market and also provide competition, because that's what their main goal is, to be a contract distiller for companies wanting to bring bourbon to the market.
Well, don't you have some new? I mean, I think you're the one who told me about Bardstown Bourbon Bardstown Bourbon Company basically is already sold out. I mean, they're done.
Yeah, Constellation Brands bought. They didn't buy total business, but it was like 30 or 40% of it, and all these companies are kind of getting into this craft distilling because I think it's kind of the future. With craft beers, most beers that we drink now are craft beers, and I think the big companies are going to always have their stable products, but these craft whiskeys are going to be the ones pushing the limits and doing new things to where us as consumers are going to be willing to try and so forth. So I think it's just the big boys trying to get in there as well.
And so I'll push it to somebody else on the panel. Like, what do you think is going to happen to MGP here in 3 years, 6 years, 9 years, whatever?
Well, how in the world could they run out of whiskey? I mean, the place is huge. They've been making whiskey for how long? I mean, eventually, aren't they going to replace the barrels that they've sold? And they've got gigantic warehouses everywhere, right? So and everybody's buying from them. I don't get that.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't know that they didn't just overextend themselves. I know they were kind of expanding into their own brand. They were doing all these other mash bills. They added like 7 or 8 mash bills. and I was actually just Googling, I forgot, I'm pretty sure they're publicly traded. So I'm looking at their financials now. So this is where, an accounting degree really comes in handy, is when you want to look up whiskey companies. 2015 is a pretty healthy looking company. But who knows what 2016 will hold. So I think it's kind of hard to say, that they're still working with a pretty high cost of sales. So margins are slimmer. It looks like in 2015 they're working with
Should we buy the stock, Blake? What do you
18% market. So I mean, when you have customers banging on your door to get your product, do you just sell it all? And I've kind of looked at, sourcing some other stuff with this other distillery, and the only stuff that's on the market from them is 2, maybe 4 years old. So maybe they really did just sell through all of their older stock, and just now they're going to be in a waiting period of a couple years to, they took the cash flow and now they're going to wait. But I haven't seen much available aged MGP on the market for a year or so at least.
Didn't Greg Metzi leave?
Yeah, he left, and that was kind of a weird thing too.
It seems like he got pushed out almost.
Yeah, because it was like, hey, he's been here for however many years.
It's like 20 years.
Yeah, and then all they did was just put out an announcement and say, one of our master distillers. Because I think people forget that too is, they're owned by, they have like all these other sister companies that make Sky Vodka, or I forget what all it is. We look at it as a bourbon company, and really that's just another segment.
Yeah. I think they'll be okay in a few years. I mean, so one of the things we did for this, like our 2016 year in review, was talk with SKU and, find out how many new whiskey just distilleries opened up. So last year alone, another 125 distilleries, right? So it's not slowing down. And now it's to the point where some of these guys are almost a distillery, quote unquote, name, right? So they could have a super small still, but they're still just buying, even if it's new distillate from MGP. And I think as long as like the growth keeps happening, they're just going to they're going to be okay. Even if their business model switches from their age stock to just, being like the main distillate producer for these smaller places that really can only produce a little bit on their own and just need to source everything else.
Because there could be a lot of these guys who would just rather buy it and age it themselves. They don't want to go through the massive, even if you're working with like a 500-gallon still, you're maybe getting 1 barrel a day.
Yeah, and then you can get bought out by, a major corporation.
That's the plan. I don't know why we're on this podcast right now. We should just be planning that out.
So it's a good way to look at it. So Kyle Anderson, kind of back on the whole Smooth Ambler said, I hope it's not an industry trend, because private barrels are a great consolation prize, especially if you miss out on a limited edition release or any kind of allocated stuff. And sometimes, to be honest with you, some of the barrel picks are actually better than a lot of the allocated stuff that's out there. So just gotta.
I would say my one comment about it is like the barrel programs are awesome, but think about how easy it is to get a barrel, and any group could form and buy a barrel. And eventually, you got to realize with bourbon being so hot, it's going to take a hit. Inventory-wise, will take a hit. Anybody that does these barrel programs. I had heard a rumor, and I don't know if you guys have heard this or not, but Four Roses, when they do their barrel picks, they roll out a set number of barrels from you.
Yeah, it's 10. Yeah, they roll out. Yeah,
it's now down to 3. Was what I heard.
No, it's whenever I went in June, I think we had 6 because there were no K and no V recipes.
I had heard it's down to 3 now, but
wow,
I've not verified that. But it's awesome.
It's the 3 worst ones.
I started a whiskey group here, but I just think that the demand is going to exceed the supply for right now.
Yeah, I think it's funny if anybody just goes and looks at their collection and they go look at some of their Four Roses barrel picks from maybe like 2012, 2014, and they'll see that it's somewhere north of 10 years. It could be 10 years, 11 years, 12 years. And you go look at anything on the shelves today, it's 9 years, 9 years and 9.5 months and less than that, maybe even 8 years in some cases. So you can even see that Four Roses they're gonna start struggling here in a little bit too, because they're not gonna have aged stock. So finding anything that's over 10 years is gonna be kind of tough to find now.
Yeah, I haven't seen a 10-year-old pick from them in probably over a year.
Long time.
Yeah.
Let me throw a question out at you guys. Do you think that, and this may be further on your list, but just got me thinking about it, but I went into Total Wine today and browsed shelf after shelf after shelf of bourbon, and there everything that you could imagine from beginner to intermediate bourbon is on the shelf, and there was not a single one that I was even interested in buying. Is that a product of the hobby that we're in? Are we at the end of the glut that we just have so much that we're...
No, it's just that
I think we know what we like.
Yeah, we personally own too much, so therefore,
yeah. Whenever you're looking at 100 bottles at your house, and you're like, okay, do I really want to buy this mid-level bottle that I know everything about, and I know you're much choosier buyer now.
But
I think that's a better way to put it. You become a choose your buyer, and not only that is you got to think when we all started this years ago, we were all uninformed buyers, right? Four Rows of small batch, just regular small batch was like that was my splurge. Like that's other than that, it was just regular Old Forester. Now, me just drinking Four Rows of small batch, the only time I do it is probably if I go somewhere else and it's at somebody else's house. I don't typically go to the store and buy it because, I've got 19 other bottles of Four Roses here. I don't need another bottle.
So we're spoiled, is what you're saying.
The snobbery is very high in
It's real.
the bourbon world. Right?
It's an easy way to put it.
But
so
is it us that drives this whole market, though? Is it the high end enthusiasts that drive the market, or is it the guy who reached for the Jim Beam handle in front of me today that drives this market?
Based on some of those pictures on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, I think it's a lot of those guys too. Because there's some people who go from you'll see a post. It's like, oh, I just started this hobby 4 months ago, and it's like 50 bottles of bourbon just sitting in their house, right? A lot of it's just stuff you can buy off the shelf, and you're like, what the hell?
Did you buy out a bar?
Yeah, and I think it's, and we're the ones to blame on getting everybody caught up on all the limited release stuff because it seems like, that's all there is to talk about, right? So,
Which, I kind of feel the same way. Like I've slowly been getting into wine, and my first thought is, oh man, how do I taste these, this first growth Bordeaux that I need to try? And it's like, I don't even know the difference between the $4 bottle of wine from the gas station. Why don't I taste through, at least get my variables down before I jump into this $100 bottle of red wine that, but I think everyone has that same, it's like, I like bourbon now and I like Jim Beam Black. Why don't I find Pappy? And, why don't I hunt after a George T. Stagg? Because I hear it's great.
And those people come to our house and we give them the really, really rare, good stuff. And what does that do? That makes them want the really, really good, rare stuff. It's our damn fault.
Yeah. You see it in all these Facebook groups of people just getting into bourbon. And it's like, just picked up a William LaRue Weller today. And I'm thinking, well, those were all the bottles that I used to get in my city. And they're now,
the good old days.
Like I just used to pick them up because I knew the system. And now there's, 500 other people waiting outside before the store even opens. Like, this isn't Kentucky. This is Jacksonville.
I think it's definitely social media and FOMO. Like, you see a picture of a bottle or something, and you're like, I gotta have it, or your fear of missing out on that special bottle or whatever. So
that's very true, man. Fear that has driven rare releases for so long.
Because even though I said my goal this year is I'm going to stay away from limited releases, but when they start coming, I know I'm going to have FOMO. Oh no, they're coming out. It might be one of the best ever. But the thing is, they're going to come out with it again next year, whatever.
Yeah. It happens with look at the Elijah Craig 12 year, right? They took away the age statement. People are buying cases of this. It's like, what?
Well, Booker's people.
Don't look at that. Yeah, that's crazy.
Booker's just because they hinted at changing the price.
It's nuts.
It's a mob mentality, but at some point, the mob is just going to get tired of the same old stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You sound like a bunch of bitter old men right now.
Get off my lawn.
I don't think we're that old yet.
All right, so let's move on to the next piece. So let's kind of talk about a quick 2016 wrap up. So Blake just finished his Bourboner survey of Bourbon of the Year. So give us the drum roll and the results.
Okay, I'll let Kenny put the sound effects in with the drum roll for the main cut. But so third place was Four Roses Small Batch Limited Edition. Second place, which actually first and second both got around 800 or 900 votes apiece, and they were like 6 votes apart. But second place was Booker's Rye, and then the first place was William LaRue Weller.
You know, that didn't surprise me too much. You know, in regards of the allocation, the ability to be able to, or the availability of being able to get it nationwide, you know, it didn't surprise me considering there were 12,000 bottles of Weller that went out this year, William LaRue Weller, and there was 9,000 bottles of Booker's Rye. So with that, you've immediately got more people with hands-on bottles that can try it. So there's definitely a whole heap of people that didn't get to try it. I, for one, did my own write-in on it, and I had to say that my Bourbon of the Year was the Heaven Hill Select Stock Pre-Fire 20 year.
I'm with you. I opened that with you.
It's really good.
And
I haven't tried it yet. It really good?
Oh, it's fantastic.
And
Really?
see, that's the problem, that there were only 200 bottles of this stuff released. And so, you know, when 3,000 people try to go and write in their Bourbon of the Year, they don't get to try some of the fruits of be able to be here in Kentucky and go to the distillery and pick one of these up. That's
kind of another small issue with the whole voting thing is it's like how many different bourbons are people trying? You know, if you only tried 2, I try to say, hey, don't vote unless you've tried 4 to 5. Obviously, I'm not like checking people's bunkers before they're allowed to vote or anything. There it is, Bourbon or Whiskey of the Year. Market value just went up. Yeah. Market value just went up by at least 25 cents.
You just had the Oprah effect.
Yeah. But you know, things like the select stock
nice.
And because even Kentucky Owl did pretty good in the voting, but they're only, I think they only released like 1,800 of batch 6. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, Kenny still, or Kerry still has his favorite of
Parker's my favorite.
Yeah.
That's bad.
You're bad.
That's it. So Greg Ponder said, he goes, hillbillies in the middle of nowhere, southern Missouri, can't get any true rarity. So he said Old Forester 1920 was his best of 2016.
1920 is good.
It's a great bourbon. So is Foolproof, 1792 Foolproof.
Yeah.
So is Russell Reserve Single Barrel.
Mm-hmm.
Great middle realm bourbons, if you can find them.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and we'll kind of move on. You know, we've kind of hit on the LEs, hit on the 2016 stuff. So let's kind of move into 2017. I just kind of want to kind of gauge, you know, just get your crystal ball out, maybe your magic 8 ball, whatever it is, and kind of think of what's a 2017 prediction. Like, what do you think is going to happen and shake up this world in 2017 that maybe people aren't expecting?
I'll hop in. So we just reached out to a ton of distilleries and a ton of their PR firms to find out just any tidbits we could and just scour to get some label hits and figure out what's going on for 2017 or release that last week. There's a few things that I think really got excited, right? I think Willet's going to go on a tear, it looks like, in 2017, which has a lot of potential excitement behind it, right? XCF, you know, another version of that potential 80th anniversary release, you know, or maybe we're going to see a wheat whiskey from them. It's going to be pretty exciting. And then, you know, I think we're going to see some things that might not excite us, but a lot of other people, right? Orphan Barrel, I think their whole library collection coming out, a lot of people missed out and now they're really into it. Good, bad, or indifferent, it is what it is, right? Blade and Bow 22. I think Knob's going to take a shot at trying to bamboozle people with the 25th anniversary release, like their 2001. My personal favorite, I'm really looking forward to seeing what barrel rye comes, like the new barrel rye coming out, right? Mm. So that's going to be pretty exciting by Barrel Whiskey. I think they've done a phenomenal job of stepping up and filling in for, I almost want to say they're like the new Black Maple Hill in my book. They're just doing phenomenal barrel releases. And I think, Joe, who runs Barrel, is just killing it. So I think it's going to be really exciting.
Carrie, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm kind of bored with bourbon right now. Moving on to cognac, I think.
Cognac? Yeah, that's what I mean. Ryan came over the other night and he brought a stellar bottle of rum, and we were drinking rum before we even started drinking bourbon. And
yeah, Fred Minnick keeps pushing that one, didn't he? He's saying,
I'm telling you what, man, we're really missing out. There's definitely some good ones on the market. So
yeah,
I think I don't understand why companies don't release anything in Q1. Like it's always September to
fall.
December. Yeah, it's always fall, early winter. Like I'm walking around Total Wine, I want to buy something, and there's nothing out right now. So it'll be interesting to see what the 4-grain from Buffalo Trace is going to be like. Their special March release every year. That's pretty much all I've heard. The Van Winkle Rye. This was the last year of tanked Van Winkle Rye, so we'll be getting either this year or next year. We'll be getting Buffalo Trace's distilled Van Winkle Rye, which will be interesting to see if that beats the stuff now, which I don't think it will, but it'll be interesting to see. Other than that, I guess it's just there's so many craft distillers. You think they're going to start putting out stuff that's drinkable because they started.
Wow. Dig the knife and twist it, why don't you?
I mean, it's true that it's like, when will we get to stop judging craft, saying, it's good for craft?
Yeah.
Where it's like,
it's good for a 2-year.
Yeah. I mean, I think Wyoming has gotten there because I like their stuff. But they still have some room to improve. But
the thing I still that Kentucky's got going for it is the outdoor aging of the barrels. All the craft distillers, their stuff's not that bad, but they're aging barrels inside of an air conditioned warehouse, and you just don't get the heat in the barrels that I think you really need to get really good flavor out of it. And the grains, I think, too, makes a huge difference because was it Jim Rutledge who said crap in, crap out? if your White Dog tastes like crap, it's going to taste like crap no matter how long it's in a barrel. So, there's a lot of craft distillers, and we're pulling for them. We want something else to root for. We just need to be proven wrong that Kentucky is not, the only place to make bourbon.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Shopify's already taken the cash register online, helping millions sell billions around the world. But did you know that Shopify can do the same thing at your retail store? Give your point-of-sale system a serious upgrade with Shopify. Shopify's point-of-sale is your command center for your retail store. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify has everything you need to sell in person. And with Shopify, you get a powerhouse selling partner that effortlessly unites your in-person and online sales into one source of truth. Track every sale across your business in one place and know exactly what's in stock. Connect with customers in-line and online. Shopify helps you drive store traffic with plug-and-play tools built for marketing campaigns, from TikTok to Instagram and beyond. And get hardware that fits your business. Take payments by smartphone. Transform your tablet into a point-of-sale system, or use Shopify's point-of-sale Go mobile device for a battle-tested solution. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Do retail right with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/bourbon, all lowercase, and go to shopify.com/bourbon to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/bourbon. If you're anything like me, then you can't get enough about bourbon. And that's why I'm a subscriber to Bourbon Plus magazine. Bourbon Plus is a quarterly publication that tells the stories from the heart of bourbon, the farmers who grow the grain, the distillers who labor over the process, and the people like you and me who raise their glasses to celebrate it all. Subscribe to Bourbon Plus magazine today at bourbonplus.com, that's PLUS.com, and use code PURSUIT at checkout for $5 off your subscription.
I'll chime in. I agree with Carrie. 2016 kind of got me bored with bourbon. Everything was kind of lackluster, most of the releases. And I think I'm just going to take a year and sit back and let these distillers release something that's fantastic again. I I am excited for the craft distilleries. I think getting some good product out of them. I am excited about the Willits products I read about on the release. I hope those come true. I don't think they'll do an XCF again, just from what I've heard. But I do think the 80 year and then the wheat is a possibility, and I'm excited for that. Other than that, yeah, rum's been kind of my new hobby right now. Some fantastic ones out there, but this is a bourbon show, so we'll talk about bourbon.
Thanks for sticking to the topic there, Ryan.
Yeah, sorry.
Ryan,
So it's okay.
Ryan, have you had that Barrels rum, the one that they aged in a bourbon barrel?
I did. I had a sample at Fred's house, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
Good. Yeah,
really interesting.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
And I'm excited too for what they got coming, because they've done a really good job too. I got a couple of their bottles, and they've done some quality stuff too, blending and kind of doing the whole barrel proof thing. I like it.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? I mean, after this, it seems that most of the craft distilleries that are making a name for themselves are getting swooped up. Any kind of predictions on who might be the next one, if there's any that might be the top of your head?
Yeah, I mean, I think somebody like a Koval or even Few is getting pretty good distribution. But that's a whole different animal, because none of them are sourcing. I mean, I honestly, the one and I know Joe at Barrels is really good guy, so I have no background information, but I feel like Barrel would be the next brand that could get bought up by a large corporation, just for
the name.
Yeah.
The name, they've built a brand, they have pretty good distribution. In the supply, I think, is a big issue. So somebody like them could be next. But as far as 2017 goes, I think there's really no telling. It seems, while a few guys kind of go over to rum and that kind of stuff, I actually like rum, but you just don't get the variety you get within bourbon. So I don't know. I would guess maybe Barrel could get picked up in the next year, or a true craft guy like Few or Koval. But other than that, I don't have many other guesses.
I mean, thinking of the big guys in general, is Michter's owned by anybody, or is that still kind of a family?
No, they're still private.
Yep.
Privately owned. It's what's they're not Castle. Jefferson's is Castle. What's their train?
No, it's
we're all blanking over here, but it's okay.
We're the experts, right?
Yeah.
I know.
No, not Bomberg.
No, it's.
I mean, okay. Anyway, speaking of Castle, as you brought that up, what about Castle and Key as another potential, investment opportunity right there for some big company to come in and
I mean, they've done a great job of marketing it, but I mean, I think they just started distilling, right? And I don't even know are there any plans for an actual product anytime soon? It's been cool to watch their progress, but as far as an
gin,
actual
Yeah,
whiskey,
gin and definitely gin. From when we talked to Marianne, she definitely said gin, maybe vodka, but
Cheatham Imports or Chatham Imports.
Chatham, yeah, that's it. Yep, or Chatham, however you pronounce it.
Chatham.
So on the Castle and Key front, I know that they just filled their 100th barrel of whiskey this week.
Oh, really?
Yes. So they are distilling, and it is aging. Also, from what I understand, is they've got more rickhouse space than they know what to do with. So they are also being a location for undisclosed aging of other barrels for people as well.
Interesting.
It's basically like half of the warehouse space now, isn't it? I don't know if that's an official statistic, but
on the last podcast, I mentioned an Atlanta distillery I tried their bourbon at 1 year, and they are aging outdoor in a warehouse, and the stuff is awesome. It's only been aging for 16 months, I think. And I'm not even going to say the name because people are asking me, but I'm not
You're gonna have to Google it ourselves. Which that is an interesting point, but I think we actually have the inverse problem down in Florida. Is it gets nothing but heat.
Yeah.
So it just speeds it way too fast.
It's going fast, yeah.
And we haven't quite gotten anything that's in the 3 to 4 year mark, but anything in that 18 to 2.5 year range has just been super oaky, woody, pretty hot. And the guys at St. Augustine, they released something, and it was pretty good. And they're really good guys. Like if you ever get to go on the tour, it's great. But I just don't know if Florida's great for aging whiskey in a rickhouse fashion. I think there may need to be a little more of a cool climate. But Atlanta, who they do get some cold weather, it probably works.
Yeah, the 7 days a year that we go under freezing.
Yeah. Well, we get 1 day a year under 50 in Jacksonville. So it's like winter will be held on this day.
I think one thing craft distilling will do ultimately is, Buffalo Trace is heavily into the experimenting, whether the certain position in the warehouse makes a difference or the heat versus the cold makes a difference. I think in a couple of years, you'll really know if heat and or cold and a combination of the two really give bourbon its flavor, really like mellow out and age bourbon the way.
Now that's an interesting concept. So you're saying, the story that always is told is, the heat expands the wood, the bourbon goes into it, the cold condenses it, or I may have that backwards, but
longer and mellow.
Yeah.
So and Kentucky has always said we have 4 seasons, and it makes sense that the best come there because of the 4 seasons. But I think craft distillers will really kind of show the science behind it.
Yeah, national experiment.
Well, it's going to be hard to replicate here because only here is it 30 one day and the next day it's 70. Like if you don't like the Kentucky here, you just wait another day and it'll change. It's so extreme highs and lows, and I just don't think you can replicate that anywhere.
You do have 4 seasons there. You have cold winters and you have hot summers.
Oh yeah, for the most part. But like today, Saturday, it's going to be 70. Today it was 39. That's hard to replicate.
Yeah.
So this was kind of a good concept or a good prediction from Kyle Anderson. He said more non-age stated, no more age statements. He says even more are going to drop off. That's a pretty good prediction.
Yeah.
Honestly,
how many are left? Henry McKenna.
Evan Williams.
Well, like 12.
No Henry. Don't say Henry McKenna.
Eagle Rare is technically still 10 years, although it's very precarious that they
I'm surprised that's still on there.
Moved it to the back label.
But
Let's see what else.
It's twice a year release, I think, or 4 times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's still pretty available in most places.
Happy Van Winkle's age stated,
which is still pretty available.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Small batch.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it. What will be interesting is we'll probably go like 2 to 3 years of no age statements and everyone saying, it's all about the flavor. We don't need age statements. And then somebody's going to come back and say, look, we put the age right on the bottle, and it's going to be like a big 8, just in the middle of the bottle, and everybody's going to buy it. And then age statements come back.
When do you reverse the trend of, we took the age statements off, nobody's buying our product.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to slow down our production and put the age back on it.
We'll all be 10 years older doing the same podcast, just saying, it's back. We predicted this.
Have less
off my lawn.
We're on Community Roundtable 2,485, and we are back.
I won't even need a visor. I'll have no more hair.
We do have an age stated here in Kentucky, which I think is definitely going to be gone. Heaven Hill 6 year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, y'all have some unfair advantages in Kentucky. I don't even want to talk about those.
I swear, once a week, I think I'm going to go just buy like 5 cases of it because I just know they're going to take it away at some point.
Even like the Heaven Hill bottled and bond, we don't get bullet barrel strength with it, which I thought was a really good release.
Knob Creek is losing its age statement too.
Is it dropping the 9 completely?
Yeah.
I think that Knob Creek's been gone for a while now.
Yeah, it has. That was a 2016 hunt.
I mean, they needed to if they're going to keep trying to push all these limited Knob Creek statements. They need to. I mean, I don't want them to hear me say this, but if they want to push a $150 Knob Creek bottle, they need to drop the 9-year age statement and don't do private barrels, because most of the private barrels are better than what I've tasted from the Knob Creek 2001 limited edition. I mean, and that's personal preference, but still.
There's a few 15-year private barrels that always squeak their way out to market too. So
Yeah.
I bet they'll do less and less of that, would be my guess.
So here is a prediction from Scott Rittenbaugh. He said more finished whiskeys and used barrels, such as beer and wine. He said possibly a Jefferson's IPA Reserve. I don't know. I haven't heard of that one.
I think that's a joke, but
isn't beer and wine finished in ex bourbon barrels? So then they're gonna
refinish it,
bring it back.
Right. Yeah, you can do that.
Use something.
Catch 22 said even Garrison Brothers is going to be releasing a port finished bourbon. But
I'll stand in line for Garrison Brothers so I can pay $150 for crap.
I was going to say,
I wasn't gonna be that harsh. I was just gonna say I was like they kind of need the port finish to kind of like take some of the edge off, but that's
they have a $99 single barrel with no age statement with a gray wax on top at Total Wine, and why do they price it so high?
It was kind of interesting. I didn't understand that, and then I tasted the Cowboy bourbon, and it was kind of the same thing. I was like, it's pretty good for craft, but it's hard to say it's worth $150 or $200 or whatever they had it at.
Right. So John Dunn also, he predicts that barrel proof is going to become widely popular just among the casual buyers.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a pretty good prediction, because you see that now, like everyone just asking for barrel proof, and like it's the only option. Any release that comes out, I actually stopped putting new labels on Bourboner because I felt like the same comment would be every time. Who cares about it? Give me barrel proof. I'm like, well, not every release has to be uncut, unfiltered.
Everybody wants a high age statement and barrel proof.
Give me a 30-year-old barrel proof. I'm like, well, it's going to taste like turpentine, but why do you want that?
And so the Catalina Wine Mixer said maybe 2017. I don't know. I love that name, right? Said 2017 perhaps see a slight cooling of the secondary market. However, Nick Amadeo kind of went the reverse way. He said the second market is just going to spiral further out of control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens on that, because it's got to stop at some point, right? But
what do you think?
Is it this year? No, probably not. But I think we're getting to a point where it's pricing itself out. It's getting too crazy.
I don't know. I don't see it slowing down just based off of other industries. It's not as big as wine. It's not as big as Scotch, but it's still a very small scale compared to those on secondary pricing. Unless some huge Pappy fraud case hits and scares everyone away, maybe that'll be my 2017 prediction. The feds round up all secondary sales and completely kill the market.
I just watched a documentary on Netflix about somebody who did that in the wine industry. Sour grapes? Wrath of grapes or sour grapes or something like that. But that made me think of it. I was like, somebody's going to do that in bourbon and, sell a bunch of fraudulent Pappies and B-Tax.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think they will. It's just, I don't keep. I just assume people are going to do anything they need to do to make money. So eventually, I think it'll happen.
Yeah.
I think the secondary market's not going to slow down. I think we're going to see more and more distilleries. I mean, we're going to see it with like the Celebration from Michter's, but I think more distilleries are just going to get involved in releasing really high-end bottles and trying to sell them. So Buffalo Trace's whole donation with OFC, right? And I realize that's a charity thing, but so Nick from Breaking Bourbon, his wife, got one for her charity. Gorgeous bottle. Who knows what it tastes like, but like gorgeous bottle. The packaging's unreal, right? And people will start paying thousands of dollars for bourbon if they're like 200 bottles at a time and they're super special. It's just going to turn straight to the Scotch world. And we're just going to see that more and more and more.
Mm-hmm. I had one through, we got one through our school.
Yep.
I got it delivered. I looked at it. It's pretty impressive, but yeah,
right?
I'm going to know what it tastes like.
Yeah, you can't open that.
I faked a charity and I got 2 bottles of it. drank them with Coke right away.
Was it?
Made Jello
if
shot.
they ask, I'm in big trouble, but hold on. How did you get that?
We're going to give Bourboner t-shirts for everybody.
That is
That's our
awesome.
next Patreon giveaway.
I need one of those. I'm gonna be like walking the dog in it, and people are like hiding their children. Don't talk with him anymore.
So one last 2017 prediction. Aaron Stark says we're going to see higher prices.
Oh yeah, that's a given.
Yep.
Yeah, I think not just higher prices. I'm going to say an immediate like 20% increase, like across the board, is going to be pretty standard.
Do you think we'll see people raise their prices and then immediately raise it back down, like the Booker's thing again?
Stuff, yeah.
No, I
That was the
don't.
most insane thing.
I think prices are gonna increase. Like I said, 20% across the board. But you're gonna see more stores that are gonna be doing a lot more kind of events or sales or whatever it is to try and say like, oh, we've got it 10% or 15% off this week versus somewhere else. So come buy your Jefferson's Ocean over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we ever finish up talking about? I know we talked about the Booker's price increase, but did we talk about the repeal?
No, I don't think we
Which
have.
was actually still a price increase. Okay.
No, go ahead. Touch on it.
I mean, I just thought it was brilliant marketing, and
I said that.
we predict. Well, let's be clear. I said it first, so we're gonna go to the tapes.
I'll play the last.
Yeah.
Again.
No, but I mean, it was. We basically said, hey, here's what will probably happen. Obviously we weren't so confident in it, but everyone could kind of see that writing on the wall, especially with what they did with Makers, a few years back.
That's what I said too.
But they basically, I'm actually just repeating your words back to you, so it sounds good. No, but they said, for 2017, this will be the price. So they didn't say we're not taking Booker's to $100 price tag. They just said, basically, we're going to slowly increase it over the next few years. And we still just think people will buy it. We're not going to increase the production, which that's a pretty big slap in the face to consumers who have been buying Booker's and supporting Booker's for a long time. But yeah, that was a tough one to swallow for me. It's like, I've loved this bourbon. I feel like I've recommended it more than any other bourbon. And now it's like, oh, actually, we're just going to make less of it. Not that we don't have more of it. We're just going to make less, and it's going to be more expensive. So I still think that's crazy, even though they've kind of come back and said, okay, actually, it's only a $15 price increase or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean,
anyone else? Any other thoughts?
Basically, mic drop right there because you and Carrie pretty much just hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's exactly what happened. It was funny just because here in Kentucky, everybody flips out. There's hordes of people rushing out. I mean, I know Costco probably, I think, had like the lowest price in town that was like at $46, and they had like a couple hundred bottles, and they were cleared by the end of the week. So, I mean, there's going to be some people that are, they're going to feel pretty sheepish, I guess you could say, that they're sitting on, I don't know, 15, 20 bottles of just one particular release of Booker's, thinking that they were going to save 50%, over time, but I guess they're only saving 15%.
That was you, Kenny. Then you go on buy some?
One bottle. I bought one bottle.
Gotcha.
Which I was kind of frustrated because I wanted to do a tasting of like all of the 2016 batches. And now you can't even find them anywhere because everyone is an empty shelf. And I'm like, geez, I should not be hunting for regular Bookers this hard. I still can't find batch 3 in a couple other ones. I'm like, dude, yeah.
$99.
$99. You're too kind. You're too kind.
So we're gonna kind of wrap this up, and I'm gonna ask one last question to kind of just put some good information out there of kind of what we think. So, is there a consensus for our favorite among the more easily obtainable higher proof bourbons that are out there? So in your opinion, what do you like most? Do you like Stagg Jr., Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof? Like, what are some other attainable ones and why? And I'll push it to Carrie first.
Old Forester 1920.
I said barrel proof.
Actually, of the barrel proofs, I still find Elijah Craig Barrel Proof to be the best of the big 3. E.H. Taylor, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, and Stagg Jr. Because ECBP is 12 years. None of the other 2 are over 8 years, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's still $60 when you can find it around. So I still think that's the best barrel proof deal that you can get, even better than Booker's.
Yeah, I totally agree on that one. It's just, it's at least around Rhyme, it seems to be getting easier and easier, especially when I'm traveling too, finding it versus the other 2. And I think the cost for the taste is great, right? It's awesome.
Yeah, I
$60
have to agree. The Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, it's just hard to beat whenever you can see it on the shelf, and it is kind of starting to hit a closer of that point of you'll see it on the shelves more. With the first 7 or so releases, it seems like it hit the shelf and it was gone, and now they kind of hang around a little more. But really, all 3 of those, I think, are great releases. We get Stagg Jr. here for $50 and kind of take it for granted. I still think it's a really good release. And Elijah Craig, E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof's really good too. So I think you can save a lot of time in chasing if you just kind of go after those. And you can't really go wrong with all 3 of those.
Yeah, for sure. Elijah Craig
also said, don't forget about some other ones such as Maker's Mark Cash Strength and then 1792 Full Proof.
Yeah. But full proof's just entry proof, right?
Yeah.
It's not really barrel proof.
Yeah. But I mean, it's
pretty close.
It's probably coming out at maybe 130 at the top.
Yeah.
Would be my guess. Maker's Mark Cash Strength is actually really good. And whenever they finally do a nationwide release of the
46.
Yeah, what are they calling it? Bill Samuel Select or something like that. That would be a great one.
The Maker's 46 cask is just phenomenal in my book.
Yeah.
But again, it's Kentucky only, but if that goes nationwide, I think that'll do phenomenal.
I agree.
The Maker's 46 is just 2 additional weeks with some barrel staves in it, isn't it?
9 additional weeks.
Oh, sorry.
With the barrel staves. So let's it's 9 weeks. It's a little bit older, and it's the French oak staves.
Yeah.
That are in there. So, but the ones I've had and the store picks that I've had have been really good.
Yeah, agree.
Yep. I'm with everyone else. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof's definitely the best out there on the market. Although I do anticipate that losing an age statement soon. Also, I feel like
so?
What's your face? It's not happening.
I swear I saw a marketing piece the other day, and it was like a bottle redesign for that, and there was no age statement on it.
What?
Yeah. I saw it online somewhere, but anyways, that and the Four Roses barrel picks, I think they're usually barrel proof, and you can find those at usually any liquor stores. Those would be my 2 go-tos. Elijah Craig's probably a little harder to find around here, but the Four Roses barrel picks are always solid.
Good deal. So I think that that kind of gets some good information out there for people that are wanting to dip their toes in the barrel proof, as we had made a 27, or somebody had mentioned as a 2017 prediction of people getting a barrel proof. There you get it from the panelists here on the community roundtable. So I want to say, gentlemen, thank you again for joining me on yet another edition here. It's been a pleasure. So we'll kind of close it out, and again, tell everybody where they can read your blogs, get to know you, send you Twitter and Facebook, messages and all that other kind of good stuff.
I'll go first because Blake will just repeat what I say.
It's not repeating when you speak first. I said it first.
Suburbia.com, www.subourbia.com. On Twitter, follow me at Bourbon_Gamer. Don't forget to visit Tousey House Tavern, which was this week's restaurant pick. Follow Bourbon R on Twitter and Facebook, everywhere else he is, because he's everywhere. Once again, gentlemen, I've had a blast. Thank you for having me tonight.
Sure. This is Jordan, one of the guys from Breaking Bourbon. So www.breakingbourbon.com, at Breaking Bourbon on all the social media accounts for the latest news, reviews, and our daily release calendar. And yeah, thanks for having us. We always enjoy doing this.
And I'm Blake from bourboner.com. No E, just bourbon with an R on the end. And you can find me on Twitter. It's bourboner.com, and then Instagram's Bourboner or at Bourboner, and then there's a Facebook group as well if you search for that. And actually, I'm also on Tumblr too, I believe. My cousin told me he followed me on Tumblr, and I didn't realize I had a Tumblr account. So if you're on Tumblr, you can check it out there. I think it's just only my Instagram posts go there. So
what's your MySpace account?
My MySpace is Tom. It's myspace.com/Tom.
Just him and Tom.
Yeah. Carrie has ruined Bourboner for me. All I can think
my
of.
My Friendster account is.
There you go. How about Ryan? Ryan did give a shout out.
Yeah, you can find me wherever Kenny's about to say.
Yeah, so I want to say thank you all again for joining us tonight, and thank you everybody that tuned in on YouTube Live. It was great to kind of get your suggestions, your questions, and your input as well. Always great to have a lot of people kind of chiming in and sharing that information. You can, if you do like what you hear, make sure you support the show on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Bourbon Pursuit. And you can follow us on those great social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter and MySpace and Tumblr and Reddit and all those great places at Bourbon Pursuit. Actually, just
Ryan.
Yes, sir.
For the awesome podcast. Keep up the great work, guys.
Oh, thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate what y'all do.
Yeah, Ryan, close it out for us, man.
Yeah, thanks again, guys, for hanging out with us, chatting. It's always fun, good fun. Love the camaraderie we have. But if any of the listeners have show suggestions, comments, feedback, we're here for you. So just let us know who you want to hear, what you want to hear, and we'll bring it to you. So we'll see you next time.
We stole a typical, it says there's a chance this is bourbon, yeah. But I changed it this time and it says because they don't make bourbon koozies, and thinking, okay, it's unique, it's different. Mm-hmm. But now I kind of want to have to do like a last minute change. It says you give me a bourboner.
Awesome.